Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. As many of you know, there's a Texas Senate race this year, and last night was the primary. Jasmine Crockett has done the most to boost her own profile in anticipation of this. Actually, she was looking for any sort of office that would be higher than the House of Representatives, and the Senate was the first thing that came up since the Texas Republicans redrew the district map. She spent a lot of years getting into spitball fights with the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene and every Trump official who's ever come before her. This is the classic playbook a number of people have used to try to elbow their way into the news cycle. Barack Obama did it successfully, Ron DeSantis not so much. And last night it finally came time for the big game. Jasmine Crockett was going to be going into a primary against some guy named Tallarico. I say some guy named Tallarico because most people didn't even know who this guy was until about 6 or so months ago. And yet he has absolutely taken off like a rocket. Not with a little help from the Democrats, though. So the night began as you would expect. Jasmine Crockett or her opponent were in the lead, depending on what poll you were looking at. But in this piece, MS Now reveals the cynical strategy Crockett's relying on.
There's a lot of suspense here in this Democratic race. There has been polling that's shown Crockett ahead. There's been polling that's shown her ahead comfortably. There's been polling that has shown Tallarico ahead here. So no one really knows what to expect here, but a couple dynamics are pretty clear in the polling. One is that Crockett is doing extremely well with the black vote. About 1 out of 5 votes in this primary are going to come from black voters. Her political base is around Dallas. That's where her congressional district is. And there's a lot of black votes in that area in particular. So can she run up the score there? Tallarico's political base is right here around Austin. He's in the state legislature. He's doing well, very well with white voters in polling, particularly white college-educated voters. So, a lot of the area around Austin there, you see a lot of those types of voters. I think the Houston area is going to be a big sort of swing area in this primary tomorrow. And I think it's Hispanic voters. There's been polling that has shown Tallarico way up with Hispanic voters. There has been polling that's shown Crockett ahead with Hispanic voters. That's, I think, the big wild card here. How is the Hispanic vote going to break? Take a look at El Paso, a good chunk of votes out there. Take a look all in South Texas along the border, up into the coastal bend here. I think how the Hispanic vote breaks may end up being what determines this primary tomorrow.
Hands up if you didn't see this one coming. It's basically the Lone Star version of Obama's campaign strategy. Count on overwhelming black support simply because, but make sure to pander to everybody else like immigrants and do the most to show that that's who you're going to be producing results for. Except in this instance, they just came right out and said it. The tragedy of the black vote is not that it swings to one party overwhelmingly. For a minority population, that's how you make yourself a swing vote, so it's important to have all of your ducks in a row and everybody going in the same direction. The tragedy, however, is that black voters never attach demands to our vote. We turn out to the polls for feelings and vibes, no tangibles required. We need to exercise political maturity. A black face on the ballot means nothing if it's not coming with black policies. Yes, Jasmine Crockett's going to pander to immigrants the same way Karen Bass did in Los Angeles. And you can bet that she's going to be offering Hispanics more than just some sass and a few one-liners aimed at the Trump administration. It's already a hard sell to get the Hispanic community to get behind a black candidate, and it becomes impossible if that black candidate does not tell them exactly what they're going to get. Now, I decided to watch the returns of the primary election as things got underway, and looking at it was deja vu all over again. It reminded me of Kamala Harris's 2024 defeat. Tallarico took the lead from the very start and never let go. For the most part, as the hours went by, you just watched Jasmine Crockett's vote tally begin to stall, and her percentage of the vote slowly begin to drop. Hell, even the third guy in the race, who nobody heard of, had his own numbers go up a little bit, and he wasn't even in it. And in due time, it was all over but the crying. Well, at least she made it competitive, but the truth is, Democrats didn't want Jasmine Crockett to be in the Senate. This Tallarico guy, he only began his campaign about 6 months ago, and he can talk all he wants about having a grassroots campaign, but we know better. As soon as it became clear to a number of DNC leaders that Crockett was actually going to be running for a higher office, they began their little whisper campaign against her. They started taking shots at her through the white media, like that hit piece The Atlantic did about her last year, where they claimed that even her own staffers weren't fans of hers. When this Tallarico guy went on Colbert and Trump objected to it, that told me the fix was in. Everybody knows the orange man is petty as a pancake, and yet for this Tallarico guy, he was ready to go ballistic on this man. A man who, truth be told, I didn't know if he ever said anything even critical of Trump. Now, you would have thought that Trump would have lost his mind when Jasmine Crockett went on Colbert, but that wasn't it. It was Tallarico's appearance there that made the orange man say, "What about the fairness doctrine," etc., etc. Tallarico's profile shot through the roof as a result of all the attention that he got from that. And since nothing happens in a vacuum under white supremacy as I see it, Democrats were playing along with the narrative that Tallarico was the guy who Trump didn't want to win, that Trump had it in for this guy. And if Trump really hates this guy, that means the voters ought to love him, right? As I saw it, that whole incident was meant to benefit Tallarico because when Jasmine Crockett went on Colbert, Trump and his pals didn't raise any stink about that at all. What's called for here is a political reconfiguration, where the black base of the party is prioritized. But that's exactly what the Democrats want to avoid. They just keep running the same play over and over again. Let's see if we can win a big election, but do it without black support. Black voters need someone who's going to be standing up for a black agenda, not somebody who's trying to be some sassy boss babe on Capitol Hill. That's the lesson that Jasmine Crockett failed to learn. We can add that to the entire dictionary of things that she needs to learn. Obviously, you're going to have the predictable comparisons to Kamala Harris and the shea butter ski-wee constituency of voters who say that they're going to be butthurt, but truth be told, they're both right and wrong. They'll be complaining that the voters don't like black women. Well, in this case, they got the black part right. Her being a woman was irrelevant. What a shame she never seemed to figure that out. The roly-poly rump contingent will be blaming Texas Republicans on the one hand and the black grassroots on the other, as usual. But the ones that they ought to be blaming are Democrats. They sat on their hands for over 20 years for every attack the Republicans have launched on black voters and even on black elected officials, like the so-called emergency manager law in Michigan, or the orgy of redrawing the voter district maps that the Republicans have been carrying out. Democrats wanted to teach Republicans that there would be no penalty for attacking black voters or even their own black Democratic politicians, that it was a victimless crime. The most outrageous unconstitutional laws would only be responded to if it affected non-black voters. That was the message the Democrats wanted to get across to the Republicans. It was open season on black folks any way they wanted, because after all, if black people are spending all of their time fending off these Republican attacks, they won't have the time or inclination to actually make demands of the Democrats. That was the would-be 4D chess they were trying to play. Yes, Democrats retaliated for the redrawing of district lines that Republicans have done, but only for the purpose of increasing the representation of non-black politicians in Congress. Democrats can easily come together to push a nationwide protective agenda for abortion or for gay marriage, but when it comes to black people, even their own bought and paid for bootlicks, they can never get anything going. It's always the old, "we tried." And Republicans are continuing to capitalize on this. Previously, voting in Dallas County was done county-wide. You could vote at any polling place in the county so long as you didn't vote more than once. But Republicans in Texas, as part of their campaign to stay out of their own political graves, they changed the rules on that, and now they've made it where Dallas voters have to go to specific polling places to vote. Obviously, this was meant to cause confusion, which is exactly what it did. So yesterday, when voting was well underway, a Dallas judge issued an order that would have kept Dallas polls open until 9 o'clock p.m. so that more people in Dallas County would have a chance to figure out where they were actually supposed to be voting at and be able to cast their ballots. But the notoriously corrupt Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, who is on the ballot himself running for the Senate, will benefit from less people voting in Dallas, so he asked his cronies on the Texas Supreme Court to strike down that order, claiming that he wasn't given the required notice. Dallas is Jasmine Crockett's home base. Sure, she got beat by 8 percentage points or so in the primary, but the reality is if she had won, it would have been a razor-thin margin no matter what. So she needed every vote that she could get. The Texas Supreme Court's ruling hurt her, and it's going to have downstream effects for Democrats come the November elections. What's next for Jasmine Crockett at this point? Assuming she can hold on to her House seat, she'll try to stay there, but if she can't, she'll do like Jim Clyburn's boy, Jamie Harrison, and try to become a party operative in the hierarchy of the DNC. And you can bet she'll be trying to pull a Pete Buttigieg and audition for a cabinet position in some future Democratic administration. And if all else fails, expect to see her wash up on the putrid shores of MS Now or CNN and try to become a panelist there. Hell, I wouldn't even rule out her trying to hang out with Roly-Poly Martin in that broom closet of his. Believe it or not, Jasmine Crockett's big mouth isn't the reason that I don't like her. It's that she only runs her mouth to promote herself or some non-FBA constituency. She has no problem whatsoever sounding off, no problem getting into ugly spats on camera, and no problem being the loudest and wrongest person in the room with her rhetoric. And that's fine by me, but this is all about improving her own position, not ours. And that's the problem. If somebody wants to say the old, well, they can't publicly get out there and talk the way that the black media does, that kind of a stance would only, and I want to emphasize there's one circumstance under which this might be acceptable, it would only be acceptable if that person had reached out to the black grassroots from the time that they first considered running. I don't necessarily need a candidate for high office to be repeating all of our talking points on the campaign trail. That is, if they've already come to us behind closed doors and privately reassured us that they're with the program. Now, I didn't say that they don't have to do it or that I don't want them to. What I'm saying is the only way that I would accept them not doing it is if they've gone ahead and made sure to give us the necessary assurances that they know which side their bread's buttered on. You see, this is what these white candidates do. From Mitt Romney to Hillary Clinton, both of them got caught on secret recordings telling their rich donors to ignore the positions that they took on camera when speaking to the public. They told them, well, that's just what we have to say to get the rubes to vote for us. Both Hillary Clinton and Mitt Romney were caught talking like that. So if someone's talking one way publicly but the exact opposite in private, I'm fine with that so long as it's my interests that are being spoken about in private, because we all know it's those private conversations that show what their real positions are. Problem is, the Jasmine Crockett's haven't done that, and they're not going to. And it's not a votes issue with her, it's about staying in the good graces of the white power structure that she's depending on for her political future. Well, as she found out last night, the road to higher office runs through the black community. And if you're one of those people who thinks that they can afford to ignore the black grassroots interest, then what you'll find is, more than likely, you won't have a political future. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Arlaz, DPB79, Kiko Hayes, Robert Dobson, and Amir Ree. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.